session?
I think it was a very good session. I think we got some work done. There's obviously a lot more work to do.
What's next for you?
We'll see.
I think we have to absolutely continue to work through issues. We mustn't forget we're like 2 votes short all the time. And so I think it's imperative that, one, we do the right thing. We make sure that we're consulting with the other parties and that we do the right thing and keep the country moving forward. I think it would be devastating to fall into an election campaign with the amount of instability that's out there today. So for the country's sake, we got to keep going forward. And that means we got to keep working together.
And how do you get those 2 extra votes, though? Do you think you can maybe make a deal with the NDP or get them on committees, for example?
Well, I think we have to have more discussions, and everybody has to understand what's at stake right now. This is the future of our country, and I think President Trump would love if we were fighting each other and having elections and destabilizing our own country. So it's imperative that we all work together. And I think that everybody that's in the House today wants the same thing. And they're going to work together with all of us. That's my Christmas wish, and that's for hopefully a great new year. Thank you.
Thank you. What did you think of the session?
Interesting. It was very different, for sure.
It's very different. Do you think that the NDP should get a seat on committees?
That would be great if we had a seat in committees. It was a struggle to seek unanimous consent to ask questions. I am thankful to people like Romanado, who would give me her time at committee. So it's good to see that we're all still willing to work together to make sure that we get issues brought to Canada.
Is your party asking the Prime Minister's office for a seat at committees in the new year?
That's a question for our interim leader, Don Davies, to answer.
The Treaty 8 First Nations in Alberta on the pipeline MOU today floated the idea of potential legal action against them over the lack of consultation that they faced. Just wondering what you think of that.
I think rightly so they feel that that's an avenue that they should take, because what we've seen in this Liberal government is that they haven't taken Indigenous people's rights seriously. They don't respect their UNDRIP. They don't ensure that there's free, prior, and informed consent, and that those are very important rights that Indigenous peoples should be upheld.
Okay. Quickly, Treaty 8 First Nations, they're talking about potential legal action over the lack of consultation around the pipeline MOU, also talking about more protest actions. What's your response to them, and how would you respond to the protesters as they look to mobilize their base?
Okay, so first I've heard of it. With the MOU in general, what I would say is the MOU puts a real premium on engaging with First Nations. You can argue about whether First Nations should have been involved before, but the reality is everything's got to start somewhere, and this one started with a conversation between Alberta and Canada, and it covers a whole range of issues, not just a pipeline, right? It includes what we're going to do with electricity rigs, it includes nuclear, it includes AI. So it was really, as much as anything, 80-90% between those two parties, and that's why it started there. But it says it's got to move from there fast to involve First Nations, and so this is the time to have those engagements. This is the time to push conversations further. And I do think, as we all work to strengthen this country at this serious time, I'm quite sure we'll be able to find ways to work together collaboratively and work, good paths together, us and First Nations of Treaty 8.
The Minister said on his way out of Cabinet that something's being organized with coastal First Nations and the Prime. Will you also be looking to speak with Treaty 8 First Nations as well?
I mean, a question for the Prime Minister, but I'm quite sure that he'd be happy to meet. I'm not sure what that timing would look like, but he's been very persistent in making sure we all know and understand and appreciate the importance of engagement with First Nations and the importance of meaningful engagement that includes things like equity and economic participation and the benefits being spread broadly for projects like this.
Thank you. Sorry I jump in late. Maybe you're going to re-answer, but on trade with the United States, we've heard a lot from President Trump that he might look at pulling out of CUSMA and then trying to land bilateral deals with Canada and Mexico. Is that something the government is open to at all? Is that something that's been expressed at the table?
Well, I think what we know is that CUSMA is a good deal, not just for Canada, but for the United States and Mexico. We've heard that from the American businesses as well, as they're doing their consultations on the review of CUSMA, which is in the agreement. I'm part of the Standing Committee on International Trade, and we've also are listening to our stakeholders, and they all are telling us the same thing, that the agreement is a good agreement. It works well for all three countries. It creates prosperity. It creates good paying jobs. So our path forward is to make sure that we work with Americans and Mexicans. If there's some irritants that we can find a way around, let's work on those and strengthen the agreement.
Is Canada getting a message behind the scenes that the U.S. would pull out? That's what they're saying publicly right now.
I think the agreement works well. I think all the businesses and other stakeholders are telling us the same. I'm hopeful that the American administration will listen to their businesses and consumers and see the utility in the agreement.
What are your constituents telling you about the possibility of returning to 5 days a week in the office for the public service?
I was talking to Marc just about this earlier and said, look, I mean, all these speculations I'm hearing is in the media. I have been personally a long-time supporter of hybrid work. For me, what focus should be is the quality of public services that's being delivered. That's what we always need to focus on.
And are you hearing from constituents, though? Are you hearing concerns? Can you give us a sense?
Well, I think the uncertainties in terms of what the rumors are and stuff probably creates a little bit of concern. Again, I think the decision, as far as I know, is what the state of work environment is today. Okay, thank you very much.
Sitting went. Do you think the NDP should get this in committee?
Well, absolutely. I think our voice, we always punch above our weight. Our voice in committee certainly matters, but also our voice in the House of Commons. Right now, we have two right-wing parties that are vying for who can be more right-wing, and the NDP voice is critical to keep both the Conservatives and the Liberals accountable.
Do you think your party should ask the Prime Minister's office for seats on committee for the NDP in the new year?
I'll let that be up to our interim leader, Don Davies, but certainly I think we are seeing what happens when you don't elect New Democrats in the House of Commons. Even the bill that's going through today, Bill C-12, that's being pushed through, that has been criticized by many organizations, including Amnesty International, about how it places particularly women and children at risk, that is being supported by the Bloc Conservatives and Liberals. We need more New Democrats in the House of Commons.
Are you planning to make an endorsement in the NDP leadership race at any point?
I haven't made that decision as of yet, but what I can tell you, I'm looking for a leader that has a bold, progressive positions, certainly around the climate emergency, certainly around gender equality, Indigenous rights, and also military spending, quite frankly. Yes, thank you.
Have a good holiday.
You too? I think the sitting went, and how do you think you're working with the opposition?
You mean the entire sitting? Well, I'm in the Justice Committee right now where we're working effectively with the Bloc, but not with the Conservatives, and I think it depends on the day, depends on the bill, but everybody's trying, at least on our side, to work together.
How much longer do you think this Justice Committee is going to go on for? Because the Bloc, I understand, just blocked that Conservative suggestion.
The Conservatives are filibustering and don't want C9 to proceed, the Combating Hate Act, and certainly the Liberals and the Bloc would both like to get through clause by clause and get it back to the House as soon as possible.
Is your understanding on the religious exemption change that is final, that the government has accepted that?
So the government has nothing to do with it. It's the Liberal members on the committee. Liberals and members on the committee have voted in favor with the Bloc of removing a religious defense for the willful promotion of hate. So let's understand this. This doesn't take away anybody's right to preach. It doesn't take away anybody's right to read scriptures or to pray. In fact, the bill itself is a bill that protects religious rights, because it's a bill that's saying when communities of faith have a right not to be intimidated or obstructed to enter their places of worship. All that this does is, if you have willfully promoted hate, meaning you vilified identifiable group to the extent that the police have arrested you or prosecutors charged you and the provincial attorney general has signed off, then you can't say that your hate, the vilification of an identifiable group, was because of your good faith belief in a religious text. That's all that it does. The only people that are affected by this are people charged with willful promotion of hate. Thanks. Have a great day.
Hearing about return to office for the public service.
Well, first of all, the clerk will make the final decision. It's an employer decision. That's the most important thing. And I'm hearing that there are conversations happening. So,
what are you hearing from constituents? Are you hearing any concerns, or are you personally concerned about kind of an increase in the days? Like the unions aren't happy about it.
well, the unions have been talking to me about it. I've shared their thoughts. I think that we have to be open and listen to how we can make sure that we deliver the best service, and the public service is one of the best. So how do we deliver is what we need to make sure we respond to, and hybrid is the question currently that is being discussed. Merci.
So today in the House of Commons, I outlined again that Abbotsford is at risk of another flood. For many years, I've been calling upon the federal government to take flood infrastructure and supply chains seriously in British Columbia. They haven't done that to date. We have not received any additional funding to build better infrastructure to account for the changing weather patterns in the Fraser Valley region. The federal government needs to provide our businesses, our trade networks, that certainty. They need to invest in Abbotsford. Abbotsford deserves that flood infrastructure.
Can you give us a sense of what your constituents are saying about this whole situation?
Right, so I have family that live in the evacuated area right now. So there's a lot of fear out there. Fear of loss of livelihood and fear over the waters that are crossing over from the United States right now. So that's the general mood, is fear. My constituents are scared, and they're wondering why, despite so many promises, direct promises from the former Prime Minister, and many existing members of the Liberal government right now, that they were going to do something to help us, and they haven't. And if this was in a more urban area of the country, I truly do believe that this issue would have been solved already, but we've been ignored, and I'm going to keep fighting for Abbotsford, and I'm going to keep fighting for the national interests, because all goods that go to the Port of Metro Vancouver flow through Abbotsford. And if we don't address our infrastructure deficit, we're going to continue facing this uncertainty, which is bad for our economy, especially when we hear from the government that they want to expand trade into Asia and double our exports. Well, we can't do that unless we have the proper infrastructure in place in the Fraser Valley, Fraser Canyon regions.
What specifically hasn't the federal government done to fix the infrastructure?
They have not done anything to upgrade the infrastructure from what we previously had 4 years ago. So repairs have been made, but they have not done the necessary work to improve the ability to move water at a rapid rate through pump systems and improvements to our dike infrastructure. Thank you
so much.
Well, I think that the government wasn't able to get through some of the key legislations. For example, Bill C-2, that was their flagship legislation, and it was the first bill that the Prime Minister brought forward in the House, and is stuck in the system. It really just goes to show you the lack of work that they put into in crafting legislation and trying to bring people together to make it work for all Canadians. I think that's one example. The other thing is, for the NDP, despite the fact that there are only 7 of us, the NDP actually did a lot of things in the session. So take, for example, as the critic for immigration, refugee, and citizenship, Bill C-3 would not have happened with the necessary changes to make sure that Canada's citizenship laws for lost Canadians are charter compliant. That's because of the NDP and the work that we put in to make that happen. So I would say to the Prime Minister and the Liberals, they're in a minority government situation, and they should be working with parties, and particularly with us, where we can actually do things for Canadians, for the betterment of all Canadians.
And since you're the immigration critic for the NDP, I just want to ask you about a story my colleague Ashley Burke came out with today about the Immigration Museum Pier 21 in Nova Scotia, how that CEO, or the head of that museum, she's been accused of, found it in a report of calling a senior team sluts, for example, using really derogatory language against her staff, and even causing them to want to self-harm. What is your reaction to that?
Well, in any workplace, that is inappropriate. And so it doesn't matter where it is. We need to make sure that workers' rights are respected, that workers are respected, and that kind of language or harassment of workers is unacceptable. And so that should be in place for all federal government funded agencies, and should be certainly in place here as well, as over time there's been adjustments made here in this place. And so it is absolutely critical that we respect workers and nobody be subject to that kind of treatment.
We've just learned that that CEO is now leaving, and we heard from Mr. Miller earlier that it's not his role to turf a CEO like that. So I would just wonder if you think the government should have more oversight over these national museums.
I think that there should be guidelines in place, and so that people know what the expectations are and accountability measures in place. Certainly it's not government to operate these agencies. Of course, it's not their role. However, it is government's role, I think, to facilitate a process for government organizations, sorry, let me rephrase that. It would be government's role to ensure that best practices and guidelines are in place. I think that would be good for everyone, to be honest, and if we can come up with that kind of procedure and processes, then you can ensure that behavior like that, A, is not repeated, and second, that there's accountability measures in place.
Thank you so much. And have you chosen who you're supporting in the NDP leadership race yet?
I have not.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think it was okay. I mean, it's a minority government. It's my 10th year. I've seen it all, but it's sad to see the kind of obstruction that's happening. And I would just say that we hope that there'll be more collaboration when the House resumes.
Would you be ready for an election next year if it comes to that?
I'm always ready for an election. I think that's the name of the game when you're in a minority, and really you shouldn't, lose touch of your connection with your voters anyway. As a good member of Parliament, you're always out there, you're always talking to people, and in my case, making sure that we raise money at the local level so that we can be ready no matter what happens.
Do you think your government needs to do more, though, to work across party lines, work with the NDP, work with the Conservatives?
I am, listen, I can't speak for everyone, but I can say that I have always done that. And so, for example, I have relationships with people from the NDP. I have a few with the Conservatives, and certainly have worked really well with the Bloc and a variety of different pieces of legislation. So I think that we have to continue to look for places where we agree. Obviously, it's democracy. We're not all meant to sing unanimously from the same song sheet. But I think what Canadians want right now, more than anything, is stability. They want a stability, and I don't think Canadians think about whether it's a majority or a minority, quite frankly. They want a government and they want a parliament that's focused on what their needs are right now, and they're focused on their day-to-day lives, on what this trade war means for their own communities, the job losses that may or may not be present in their sector, and they want people to work together for solutions. Thank you very much.
Look, it's developing news, but it's most likely the right move.
And what was with the Prime Minister and Dominic LeBlanc pulling you away?
I think it's bullying.
Bullying?
Yeah, bullying. Cabinet bullying. No, it's already happening. 2 weeks in the job.
Wow. Are you going to file a complaint?
Absolutely not. I've been fired once this year. Twice would be awful. No, I'm kidding. I was thinking it's a joke. It's funny.
It would have been nice, I think, to have some of the opposition move forward on a little bit more of the crime legislation that we put through the House. But I thought it was a successful sitting from the government perspective. I think the budget was a success. We obviously have to get C-15 through the House, but a good session for the Liberal Party.
Should your government do more to work with the other parties?
Our government continues, and the House Leader has those conversations every day. Obviously, you heard a lot of the words around obstruction and some of the work that I think, unfortunately, some of the legislation could have got through. We have crime legislation. We know that that's important across the country, and the Conservatives continue to stall that throughout the fall session, so we'll continue to try to find pathways forward. But we do need an opposition that wants to play ball, and hopefully we can find that pathway. Merry Christmas, everyone. Good.
Well, we had very challenging times with the tariffs on a variety of things, including steel. So, we're doing everything possible to continue to support workers in the steel industry and all the other industry. And, that we did a lot of work in there to do that. So I thank everyone for supporting the workers and the industries that have been affected by the Trump's tariffs.
How confident are you that CUSMA will survive in the new year?
You know what? That's going to be, a top priority for the negotiations. It's up for review and negotiations. So, I'll be heading to Washington too to lend my voice as well. well, in the new year, hopefully January, February.
By
So.
yourself, or?
Yeah, me and maybe some other people that I'll bring that have steel interest in their riding. So wish everyone the best for the season, and hopefully we'll get back to getting rid of those tariffs. Thank you.